special privilege to introduce the speaker tonight, Frank Chester. I have to admit that until a few months ago, in December, I had no idea who Frank was or his work. And it happened to be late in December that a friend of mine who had come by asked me incidentally, say, can you tell me something about a seven-sided platonic solid? And then she left. I had to think about that. And she was coming back that evening. And I immediately thought, no, that's not possible. But I thought, okay, I can look it up. Easy to do. But none of my books said anything about that. And then I went to the internet, of course. And of course, everything said, no, seven-sided platonic solid is not possible. There's no such thing. Until some little note at the bottom. There said something about a seven-sided platonic solid called chestahedron, and Pandora's box opened up. I really stumbled on this work, and it really blew my mind that evening. I was so excited by every bit that I started getting into. I had to call my wife, who was a scientist in background, and we both were there enjoying the rest of the evening, getting all this information. And it was just unfolding and unpacking like I've never had anything experienced like that before. It was so exciting, that so inspiring, that a few days later I told my class, it was the last class meeting, and they could sense my excitement and they didn't understand what I was really talking about. But I said, well, we're going to try to get it here. So it was a big enough discovery that I really also enjoyed for not only the information that unfolded, but the fact that I felt a kinship with the process that Frank Chester took us through in this discovery. It's the kind of stuff that I teach, so it was close to my heart. It resonated with loud sound, so I finally asked permission eventually to see if he could come, and he's here. I'm so pleased. Frank Chester, most of you are here for the reason of the talk, and you know a bit more who he is. He's a Cranbrook graduate, he's an artist, a sculptor, a geometrician, and he's living in San Francisco, and with more than 30 years of teaching experience as well. And he's a real teacher. I looked at his films, and he just is wonderful. You're set for a magic show, really, here, as you can see. And he retired about 10 years ago. And it really was, as he just told me, really that moment was a moment of crisis, you might say. And it opened up a whole new avenue of discovery for him in his life that led to this discovery in the what he calls the chestahedron. What search he had really led to something that is so unique, it's never been seen on this earth before. And what unfolded because of that really has begun to enthrall also the science world as well as the medical world, and he'll share with you some of that as well. So I'm very pleased to welcome Frank Chester. 2 notes of thanks. Whoops, am I gone? First of all, that this is a joint sponsorship with the Furniture Department, Graphic Design Department, the Foundation Studies, and the Division of Design. And I also want to say thanks to Ann Wexler, who designed that poster. She did a fantastic job.
Now, Annie, I want to thank you also for this poster. That's way beyond what I expected. That's really nice. And thank for all the people who have helped me here. I have 4 people here that have come from California and New York to film and also to help any questions you have afterwards outside. So I'll start this off. Get used to this equipment here. This is basically a new form technology. That form you see up there never been seen before. And inside that form there is a dual. A dual is like this. It means that one form can go inside the other and also can go outside the other. And that form that you have up here satisfies those requirements. So what I thought I'd do is to tell you basically what I've been doing the last 12 years. And I will show you after I found the form what I've been doing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the form, and then I'm going to show you how I found it. This is a process that I want to share, that it can be used in any art. It can be used in any field. It can be used in business, whatever, that you apply this technology. And the technology is ancient, but I have found a new way to approach it. And that's why this form was discovered, why it's never been before here on the planet. And that's been 3,500 years since these forms have been studied. I'm going to tell you why it hasn't been formed, why it was never found. And then the end, I'll open it up for questions. And Tom will come up and help me with those questions. I bring a lot of models. I could just do a PowerPoint presentation, but I found that if I bring the models, it's more real. And what's important in this field of this is new, and what's important about it is that you try to understand it. If you don't understand it, then when I show you, you're going to have to take it on my word. You're going to have faith. You're going to have faith in me that I'm telling you correctly that there's something lawful and it's new. And if you don't understand it, that can lead to doubt. And that's one thing we don't need to generate. This is lawful. There isn't anything here I made up. It's not subjective. It's objective. And it's objective in that it's a combination of art and science. And when science doesn't work, you go to art. And when art doesn't work, you go to science. And that's what I did. So I'm going to teach you how I did that. And at the end, I'm eager for questions. Okay, so here's what I've been doing the last 12 years with this form. Okay, architecture. This is the first building design that has two cupolas on top of each other. Lines on it here that you can see that are on the outside. These lines that go across here are nylon, and when the wind goes through it, it's a harp. It'll be one of the largest musical instruments. Also, all the colors that you see in it are not painted on the building. The building is all one color. All the light is coming from, and the colors are coming from the outside. And you can see that there's some little people here, so you can get the size of it. And this is all dedicated to the arts. This is the gallery, and this is where lectures are held, and so forth. Okay. Also, this is a wind harp. It was made in Arizona, based on the form, and it's musical when the wind blows. I have developed a new way of developing structures that are very similar to geodesic dome, but this is not geo, which is earth-oriented. Okay, this comes from another place. This is a geometry. It's a preometry. And what that is it shows that all the faces that make up a form, okay, are not regular, but they're structurally correct and lawful. They're not made up. None of those polygons are made up that I have there. And of course, it all comes apart, and so forth and so on. This is the first asymmetrical inversion, and it's being held in a frame out of wood. Although I have a real one, I'll show you at the end. I have a bronze one with me. making bells. The bells that you see here, this big bell right here is being made at Freeman College in England. And English people are really interested in my poem, and it's starting to be produced. Here. This one here is a little, about the size of a golf ball on a stick, and I put electric drill on, and I put it into liquid, and unbelievable vortexes are being created. I made a vortex machine. They're going to use this in preparing medicines because it implodes the water. And then I made a vortex generator to be able to put my form into. I can control the speed and so forth. I just made it at home. The vortex you can see is right here. I can control the speed of it, the size of it. I can slow it down. I can speed it up. I can bring it to a halt. And I need to do that because this is a geometry presentation of a vortex. And you didn't think a vortex had geometry behind it. It does. Okay, so here it is running in a pool. It's being tested in the Philippines. And the thing to notice here is all of the activity out here. There's thousands of vortexes all going on around here. There's bubbles all over here. Also, right in here, he'll adjust this. And when he adjusts it, you'll see this whole area implode. It'll kind of turn whitish. And he'll point it out. Because he was amazed at what happened. Now here we go. Look at that. What is going on under the water to create that from a size this big, okay, in an Olympic-sized pool. And the bubbles are going all over the pool. Little vortexes everywhere. The guy said that he could feel the water in his shorts at the other end of the pool. Okay, this is the device. I've made two of these. It creates two vortexes that are running in opposite directions. It's a bigger device that's run off one motor. But that's the basic design of it. And here's the geometry. New geometry coming off this form, never seen before. I found out how to square the circle. Squaring the circle has always been done on the outside with the Egyptian, using the Egyptian triangle of 3, 4, 5. And I decided I would try to square the circle based on this form from the inside out. And now I have this. There's no measurements. I just have a compass and a straight edge and a pencil. And all of that is created from that. And the center of the earth and the size of the moon in relationship to the earth squares the circle. And here's a sculpture of the same drawing. So what I do is I go from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. I also found out that it's also a possibility of being in the earth. So I tried to put it in the earth to see where it fit because there was an indication that there might be a tetrahedron inside the earth from a research that was done a long time ago, and I tried it. And so I found a lot of interesting things about this, especially what I found was about the Aurora Borealis. The Aurora Borealis, one of the things very peculiar about it is that at the top of the earth, it starts at one point, and that one point is right where it is on the form inside the earth model that I have. And also, it starts to grow, and then it gets into a ring. Sometimes the ring is completely around, and sometimes it's broken. But notice that it stays inside these two rings. It never goes in center. It goes around the outside. So what I also found out is that the South Pole, it does go into the center, here. So the scientists don't know why. The form explains why that happens. Okay, so here's a new beehive that's being developed. That's going to be, I think, 7 of these beehives across the United States. The beekeepers will test because one beekeeper told me that that form right there, okay, really represents the beehive. And this man has been using dodecahedrons. And when he saw my form, he said, whoa, he says, the dodecahedron's flat on the top, and that's not the way that honeybees create their form. So he took me out to his property, and he showed me these dodecahedrons all over. And he said, this is against the law to do this. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, you got to have a cube, because then the plates can be drawn out and inspected. But in the dodecahedron, that's very difficult. But he says, I'm going to let you keep the dodecahedrons. And the guy says, well, why? It's against the law. Why would you do that? You're the inspector. He says, well, I have 42 people on my route that I go around and inspect. And he said, you're the only one who has bees. So here, the chestahedron can make, there are 2 rings here. It takes 96 chestahedrons to make a ring, and the chestahedron will make a sphere. And the difference between that and the previous geodesic domes is this has a thickness, and it's spiraling out in all directions like this, all around. Whereas the domes in the past are paper thin or metal thin or whatever. There's no depth. And of course, when this work goes into galleries, this kind of work can also be put into art shows. Also, it is the geometry of the human heart. And it's the left ventricle. And I've given 2-day seminars to a group of doctors in San Francisco who organize this thing around my work. All right, so here's the chestahedron, and behind it are the inside left ventricle architectural chambers. And doctors use architecture, they use the word architecture. So I start off right off the bat to show you the 7-sided form. Here it is. Never been here before. Look how simple. Okay, so how do I do this? I'm going to show you a little bit of geometry. And I always like to start with this one, which is where 2 circles come together. So I've got this over here that I can do. And this relates to the 7-sided form and how I found it. So if you take 2 circles, put them together, people see that all right? If I take the center of this circle and I extend it to the periphery of the other circle, it makes an almond shape. That almond shape is so important. It's so simple to do. So let me draw it. I drew one head. So what I do is to do that, you just take this over and then redraw. So simple, but unreal. Now why that's so crazy and so cool is because this distance is known as 1. And to have proportions and ratios, you have to have compare something to. You can't just say, well, this is this. You have to have a comparison. So this distance from here to here is root 3. That's root 3. That's 1, 7, 3, 2, Okay, and this is 1. Now root 3 is really where form comes in. So if I take this, I can make an equilateral triangle. It's amazing I can make equilateral triangles by just drawing those. That's an equilateral triangle. And if I take this distance here and I go all the way around, if I did this right, so I should get 6. And all I did was just take 1. This length here is the same as this one. So this is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, all the way around. Of course, then if I go to the center, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. Now, how simple, why is he telling me this? Probably all done this before. But it relates in a different way now. You may see this differently. So, let me draw one more over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this, let's see, and I'm going to put a triangle here. What's the length of that triangle? What's the length from here to here? √3. Isn't that amazing? That's also the same as this distance. Now, if I draw another circle inside here, set my compass for here, and if I draw a circle here, it's exactly half the size of this one. Perfect. I didn't measure a thing. Exactly half. Like the chestahedron, and I put it into edges only, there's a triangle. Yeah? But if I spin it, you'll see the other circle. Okay. Well, simple geometry. Okay, I started out by saying I want to know what a seven-sided form looks like. That was my only intention. I wasn't out to design a building. I wasn't out to design anything except a seven-sided form because I'm a sculptor major. So, 2 years later after I had that idea, I went to school and this lady came in and taught Platonic forms. Well, I didn't know anything about Platonic forms. I mean, I knew there was a cube, you know, things like that, but I didn't know that there was a history behind them and a lot of stuff. So, here they are. The first one that comes in, okay, is a tetrahedron. Next one that comes in is an octahedron. And then an icosahedron. And then a cube. And the last one is a rhotic. And this is the order they told me. Starts this one and ends with this one. So I said, okay, how come? Who told it was in this order? Why is that? Well, nobody really had a good reason. And I looked in the books and there really wasn't a good reason either. But that was, everybody agreed with it. Pythagoras, Kepler, Da Vinci, the guys, yeah? They'll go for this. And so I want to know why though. I mean, you know, I'm in no hurry. So I found out what they do is they truncate. So what they do is they cut corners off. That's how they get these. So I'm going to put these guys over here so that you guys can always see them. Because I'm going to change these guys big time. They're not going to stay the same at all in a number of ways. So I'll put them over here in the right order. These are fantastic. They're the building blocks of the universe. The three-dimensional universe is based on these. Okay, so the first one is a tetrahedron. So what they do is they get a piece of clay, or they push points, or they cut them off. So they do it like this. They take the tetrahedron. I'll leave it up here. And they cut the corners off. This is a Pythagoras form. Kepler, okay, basically centered around these. You can see that the form now has got hexagrams. Isn't that interesting? But that's not a Platonic form. That's a transitional form. It's transforming this one into this one. Cut off the corners again. We now have an octahedron. This one. Same thing. This is a transitional form. This is where the life is. Because this is the part here that you can't see when you see these two, but it's there. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the corners off this one. first get is this guy. And this was interesting because this is what they're basing the torus now after. Also, Bucky uses this an awful lot. And it's coming, you see where it's coming from. They never tell you where it's coming from. They just show up and fold into a tetrahedron or an octahedron and so forth. But it's coming from this with its corners cut off. And the next form that comes after that is a cube. This form, okay, when it's transformed, turns into a cube. So that means that the cube came from an octahedron. What that means is that the octahedron will go into a cube. And also, the octahedron, if it's small enough, will go into the cube and opposite. Okay. So if I keep cutting, I have to go from here to the next one. Now, you notice one thing here that isn't lining up right, man. The cube is down here somewhere on this one, on this order. Okay, so what I did is I found out how to make the dodecahedron. The dodecahedron comes from a cube. It's 12 sides, and it has pentagrams all around it. This one, can you imagine that? This one comes from a cube? And I found that out because I studied pyrite. Pyrite either has this, a bunch of these, or a bunch of these. Look at it next time, it's called fool's gold. All right, so what I found out is to get this, you don't cut off corners, you cut off edges. There's a breakthrough, there's a new thing cutting off corners, not just corners, but edges. And when I cut those off, I get icosahedron. And that's the order of truncation. This is called contraction. Where's the 7? It should be between these two. Because this is 8 and this is 6. It should be right there. It's not. And that's why I started to do this, because I'm trying to look for the 7. So anyway, here's a whole new way of looking at these things, especially from here to here. It didn't work. I'm still stuck with my original question. So then I decided that I would do something different. And why I decided to do this is because I never saw these solid. I always saw them open. I never did see them this way. But I studied them. So what I decided to do is that all the things they had out on the market are real expensive. So I just took Q-tips like this and I just stuck them together like this. And of course, that's a line. On 2 lines, it still doesn't open up into a plane until you put 3 on. And when you put 3 on, they go around up, made a plane. That's the first plane in nature. Nothing comes in before a triangle. So my protocol was to do this. I was going to make and take more of these guys and put them on the corners just like I did the first way. So what I was making was, I was joining the furniture department. I was making tables. And so what I decided to do was to see where those hit. That one hit there, and that one hit there. And now I got a tetrahedron. First form that comes in nature. Nothing comes before this three-dimensionally. Nothing. All right. So I had this one. Okay, so my next one was to try to find this one. Okay, so what I did was I followed my protocol. Well, this time I took 4. Well, that's based on 3. This octahedron is based on 4, although you don't see that until you turn it right, and there's the 4. Did the same thing. I put 1 on all the corners, a little table. You don't have to spend all this money for all these expensive tools. All these zone tools and stuff, huh? They're really zoned out, I'll tell you that. There's a table. And what I did is I connected them together. Oh boy. That's not, is that a Platonic form? The Platonic form has to have all the same design or the same shape of polygon. Well, there's a square down here. So you can't have two. So what I decided to do was to make another one. And I did. And when I put them two together, there's the octahedron. This is known as fire. And this is known as air. Okay? Air is what reverses. So I thought, you know, can I prove this is really a reversal? And I was able to do it because I took a mirror and I put it on there, and there's the octahedron. So the idea that this is a reversal, okay, is correct. This isn't a reversal, because that doesn't make a Platonic form. So fire is usually what transforms everything. The octahedron, is what I said, is mirroring. So it turns things inside out. It reverses things. That's this one. Okay, so let's go on here. Now I'm going to go on with my protocol because I'm looking for the 7. Actually, what I did. So I followed my protocol, and of course I made 5. And then I put them together, and there's a beautiful shape. It has all the golden mean, golden ratios, and so forth. Big time. That's a beauty. Protocol was, put some lights on it. Let's see what I have. See how fast this is? Man, with those other tools, you'd be up here half an hour. Okay, now we have a 5-legged table. Protocol, let's put them together. There we go. Is that a Platonic form? Oh, it's not. Look at this down here, really big. And these are little small guys. They don't have to be the same. Okay, so maybe this is mirroring. I'll take the mirror. Let's try the mirroring here. Let's see if it works on it. Is that a Platonic form? No, it's not. That's too pancake-like. That didn't work. So this doesn't work. It just doesn't work out. That's not a Platonic form because of the characteristics of them. It can't be flat like that. So what am I going to do? I've got another problem here. And the problem is that I have to do something different. So what I found I had to do to make this, because I knew what it looked like, was that I had to take and put the legs on again. Now this is the first form I had to do this with, as you see. There we go. All right, let's put those together. Oh man, that's not working out at all. Again, something had to change. So what I had to do was to add 2 on every corner. So I had to do this. Aha, another triangle, another triangle. Still looking for the 7. See how I do in this? You see how it works? It works cool. Now, when I put this together, like that, this fits. And now you have and I goes Now what's interesting about this is that if you look on right straight, you will see that the 5 that I'm holding in this hand and the 5 I'm holding in this hand don't line up, they twist. So if you ever look at that, you'll find that out. And what's happening is that is known as changing. So this form is everything that changes. This is everything that reverses. This is everything that transforms, reverses. Where's the other guy? Oh, he's here. Dr. Heath. All right, it's going to solve my protocol again. Now these sticks, Q-tips, same idea. Let's put 6 of them together. Okay, there we got the hexagram. Really nice, very quick to make. Now the protocol is that I have to put legs on this thing. So here we go. All right, put legs on him. And all of a sudden this is going to become really interesting. I have to steal from the others. All right, there we go. 6-legged table. Let's put it together. So I'll put these together and see what happens. And you'll see that they flat as a pancake. 6 squares. See, this is supposed to be this, according to my research and how this works. So, what I did was I thought, well, what am I going to do with this thing? What I did was I decided that I would go to this drawing over here, and I would see the 6, and here it is. I'd already drew it. And I have root 3 here. So, if I take a straw, I want to cut that at root 3. That's root 3. That's the same thing that makes all these triangles here. Same red line. So if I take that root 3, I figured if I put that root 3 right in the center, like the legs, like my other ones. Come over here. These rubber cement works good. I can't get it apart. Look at that. That stuff is tough. Anyway, I put the root 3 there like a little candle, huh? Okay. And so there's all squares. Perfect squares. Based on root 3, as soon as I get it right. There's a cube. You're going from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions with root 3. That's why root 3 is so important. Okay, here we go. Now, what's next is a 7. All right? Here we go. I take 7, put them into a 7-sided. I'm not going to do it. It takes too much time. And then I put all the legs on it. Yeah? Here. Let's see if I have this 7, and I put all the legs on it. Look. See it? See the 7 table? Okay, so I'm going to put these together. They don't reach each other. Again, now look at this. That doesn't work. Again, I have another failure. This is another failure. So 7 doesn't come in like this. Another protocol I had doesn't work. But I learned lots of stuff from this because I did it. Why doesn't it work? Because those won't reach the middle. That's why it doesn't work. So I had to change, I had to reverse. I had to go to the octahedron. I had to reverse my thinking. And my thinking had to reverse because I was going from the periphery, the outside first, trying to go in. That was a mistake. I needed to go from the center and go out. But all this taught me that. I didn't know that. Okay, so what I did was this. I was deciding to do this 7 after 2 years of thinking about it. And I was walking along a river and I found this is a liquid amber seed. The little seeds go in here, a little pod. Some of you have seen this, it's a maple tree. But I saw all these holes in here, so I took 7 sticks. I figured, I think 7 sticks, I could put them in the holes. They're all the same length. I took sticks, all the 7, all the same length. And I put them in here, and I tried to keep them all equal distance apart. They're the same distance, and this distance should be equal. So, I had to figure out, well, let's see, I guess that one goes there, and this one goes here, and this one goes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need one more. Well, I don't see another toothpick here, but so when in doubt, use a cue stick. So now I have 7 points. I have 7 sticks. They're all the same distance, like the Platonic forms. At the center of the tetrahedron is all the same all the way out. I did it too. So when I got home, I was very happy until I connected all the triangles. I connected this one, I connected this one, and I came out with triangles, all triangles, but 10. I came out with 10 triangles, not 7. 7 points will equal 10 faces. I knew I was in trouble now. This wasn't working too well either. So the next thing I did was, this is months of work. The next thing I did is I took a sphere. I thought, okay, I'm going to take my circle template and I put it over the sinker here, or the floater, and I drew circles. And when I drew the circles, they wouldn't come together. If you take 7 pennies and you put a flat, you put one in the middle, the 6 will go around it perfect. The perfect 7 circles, and not 3-dimensionally. So I started to read for the first time about 7, and they told me in the books that 7 wasn't possible to do in nature or in Platonic forms or any kind of form without gaps. So I thought, well, there's a gap because that circle and that circle won't come together. So then I took 7 of these and I put them into a piece of clay, like in the middle, and I squeezed all 7 of them together like that, and I got this. And this is really neat. There's the gap. Look at that big gap. That's because this ball and this ball won't go together because these two stop it. So now I have a gap here, just like they said. They were right. But this is really neat. It's like a vertebrae. This is sculpture, man. This would make a great sculpture. But I kind of gave that part up. I'm still trying to work with science and art here, trying to find this. So I didn't get stuck with art. Or I didn't get stuck with science. Okay, so the next thing I did, I did so many things. You can't believe how many things I did. But finally I decided, okay, scientifically I can't get this to work. I measured everything. I got the same size balls and everything, so I go to art. I go to my training. And what I did is I took a ball of clay and I started to carve out 7 holes, 7 volcanoes. And of course, when I carved, sure enough, there's a gap. Again, the gap, because I kept the circles the same size. But artists, we don't care about gaps. They care less, we just keep carving. I kept carving, and then, this is the first 7-sided form I got out of a piece of clay that was round. But it's really goofy looking. I wanted something, not like this. But I noticed that some of the faces were 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and some of them were 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Really discouraged now. But I look back and 3 and 4 are 7. I thought it was pretty cool, but still kind of weird. But then I started to look at this and I realized that all of the curved edges became straight. And all the internal faces became straight. They became flat. They weren't curved anymore. So curved lines are become straight lines. And I noticed that there was here in the triangle, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triangles. And here I noticed there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 too. But they had a different configuration because these two here and the third one come together here so that they can't become 4 on this side and 4 on this side. Okay, so what I did is I knew I had 42 triangles. So I took the 42 triangles and I made them all equal. And I came up with this form. Another cool form. This form, the problem was, is that the distance from here to here and from here to here on the original one were equal. And because they were equal, this one got bent. So I had to make another one where the triangles were smaller up here. So the triangle here is not as big. I'm sorry, this triangle and this triangle are not as big as these two. There's 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here. These are smaller. All right, so I made this up. I took 7 cups of plaster of Paris, and I filled them up one at a time, poured them in here, took them out, numbered them, and put them out. And I found out that in these shapes inside here, look, there was a kite shape when I filled it up with plaster in Paris. And then the other shape was a triangle. That's that form. That form is made of 3 quadrilaterals and 4 triangles. And so, I put it together, and let's see where the original one is, right here. This is what I got when I poured the cement out, or the plaster of Paris. I got the 7-sided form. So now I had it for sure, but I had no idea of its characteristics. So I spent years figuring out what's going on here and studying this. Okay, the first thing I did, okay, let's see if I can catch up with here to show you the Platonic forms that have been studied for 3,500 years. These were dug out in Scotland, okay? And you can tell that they're the 5 Platonic forms, and I knew there was a school because look, they dug all these up. So there were schools on these things. I know that. They were studying them. Okay, and here's the ones I have on the table. So you can see the order. Okay, and then here's the one that I showed you here. Okay, that's the order I found out when you constrict a form and take it smaller and smaller. And here's all the pieces that I took off. And the reason I put these up here is in case in the back you can see these little things. And then, of course, this is the process that I found and why it didn't work. And here's the original one. That's the original study. And here's the process on how I found it that I just explained. And here it is. It's in a museum in England. And originally, I thought it was between the cube and the octahedron. And sure enough, it is. The chestahedron is right in between because it's between 8 and 6. Okay, the points, it's between 6 and 8. It has 7 points and 7 surfaces. And it has 12 edges. Can you believe that thing has 12 edges, just like a cube? And then, a total 28 on all of them. And then, of course, the polygons are triangles or squares. And the chestahedron is both. And the area are exactly the same. This is has 7 equal surface areas, perfect, just like a Platonic form. And the thing is that I have for anybody who's interested in math, I have all the math here for it that shows exactly that it's correct. This is what you have to do when you study something. You have to, and you back something up, you better back it up. And this is mathematically perfect. It's mathematically perfect. It's been proven, been accepted by a number of mathematicians, and these are all the studies that have to be done. Am I turning this upside down? Oh, good. Here they are. There it is, and here's the calculation of computer. And the computer worked this out along with longhand, and they came up with the same solution. The angles of the triangles are 94.8, and that's perfect. Before that it isn't, and after that it isn't. So I also have it so you can see that. Whoop, wrong way. Here's the mathematics. That's from the computer. And it shows that it's 94.8, on and on and on and on and on and on and on. It never ends. Just like the root 3 or phi, there's no end to these numbers. That's why they call them esoteric numbers, because there's no end. And you can't measure them. Root 3 has never been measured. You can't measure it. If you go on the internet and you put root 3 calculations, they'll give you 1.737, and then there are 20, I think there are 120 other pages on the internet, so over 1 million counts. They still haven't reached the end. But you can do it with a ruler, perfect, without measurement. Just a straight edge. Okay, so one of the things that I found out is that I wanted to put this through a process. And the process that I'm going to share with you is another new one, is that I started to show you that the first one is fire. This is Kepler, okay? This is Etcher. This is his little kit. These are his little drawings here. He uses salamanders because they're known as fire. The next one is water. No, I'm sorry. The next one is air. Next one is water. And the last one is earth. And this is known as the cosmos. Now, this is coming from hundreds of years ago. Okay, so I found out this one is different. This is everything that's different. This is everything that changes. This is everything that reverses. And this is what transforms them all. So you put fire into earth, or a cube of ice, it melts into water. You put more fire into water, and it turns into air. And that's the basis of where they got this from. Okay, so I wanted to put the tetrahedron into a cube because that was Earth. I wanted to study in Earth what it was, where it was found. So now I'm going to show you a process of how to find out where a thing that you don't know is it in the world. So I found out I could put it in a cube. How can you put 7 points into 6 faces? You can, because one of the points touch a corner or a vertice. So it fits in a cube. And what I did is I drew on each cube, on the faces, I took the cube's face like this, and I divided it into 16 squares. And I've scratched them right in here, and you can see them. And I found out that the tetrahedron hit right here, right there in that corner. And if I turn it on this side, it hits that same place, and I turn it on this side, on the top, it's just in the same place. So I thought that, well, if I take this in this direction, or in this direction, maybe I could find out where this thing is coming from. Where is this in the world? Where's this coming from? This geometry must have some kind of lawful basis. So what I did was I took a bunch of cubes, and I put them together. This process, I'm telling you, can be used in all different ways. Not with a cube, but in taking it to Earth. And I found out, it takes me a little while to get this right, because it's a little effort. What I found out was, if I put it into all cubes, here it is here. So if I follow the corner to the middle of the square, and then, so it's going from here down to the middle of this square and down to this square, it turns into a tetrahedron. It's this. It came from this form. Then if I continue to go in this direction, which means that the corner now ends up at the middle, it turns into an octahedron with a tetrahedron on top. That's a major discovery, and that's what you have to do, is to try to find where these things come from. And this is a lawful way of finding out where this form comes from. So what it is, it's a tetrahedron inside a cube, 2 Platonic forms. Never been done before. Can you imagine this? It's never been done before. Nobody's ever put one inside the other. Of course they have, but no one put them into a vortex. I spun this form inside a cube. So this is a vortex form. It comes from a vortex. And of course the heart is all about vortexing blood. All right. So what I noticed about this tetrahedron was that inside the cube, it was expanding. It was getting bigger. This is really big. The tetrahedron is really big here, but it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Again, it's doing the same thing as the Platonic forms are doing. So what happened, this is the first time that anybody has ever taken the tetrahedron and opened it up. This is where this new form is coming from. No one's ever done this before. And when I opened it up, I noticed that when I looked at the tetrahedron, that there was a pentagram. Kind of got bent up in a suitcase. But there's a kite shape. So I found out, well, what's happening is that this was enfolding. And then it folded again. There's your tetrahedron. Right there. Couldn't be simpler. This thing is based on phi. It's based on the golden mean. This is an enfolded pentagram. Perfect. And what's happening is that you're having a tetrahedron that's coming up from the bottom and opening up and meeting it. Like this. So you have one contracting and one expanding. And what I did is I take the star that's been enfolded 3 times, and I found out that where does it come into a hexagram? It turns into a hexagram in the middle. And then I take this one and I fold it up until it becomes a hexagram. Now, how can 2 hexagrams with 2 weird shapes ever come together and meet? And they do. Take a little while. Perfect, right in the middle. Now it's not in the middle. This distance from here to here is higher than this one. So I wanted to be in the middle. So, you know, geometry, you can't cheat. So I put it into a sphere. It's right in the middle. It's right at the equator of a sphere. That's even better than cheating. That's what I've found. Whenever I do this stuff and it doesn't work out like I want it, it's just tough luck. Because something else comes. Okay, so it went into a cube, and there's all the cubes. There are 9 of them. So it transforms from the bottom. It goes up from a tetrahedron, goes to the tetrahedron, it goes to the octahedron, it goes to the tetrahedron, it goes to the tetrahedron. It's going like this in a cube. And at the same time, it's going like this. It's expanding, contracting, expanding, contracting, expanding in a spiral. Okay. So here it is in motion. See how it goes into a tetrahedron exactly twice as big as the one it started in. Goes up to the big tetrahedron, twice the size, but it stops when it gets to 94.8 degrees, and then it spins out. And then if you spin it enough, it turns into a bell. And that's why you saw the bell. And here it is again. in a different angle, you can see some of the things that are going on through the different transformations. It's coming out, going up. Look at that, go back to a tetrahedron and then spin into a bell. Okay, so here's what happened. I found out that this is what was going on. Once I expand the tetrahedron like this, until it gets to 90 degrees. So this is 90 degrees from here to here like that. But that's not a tetrahedron. It has to go until it gets to 94.8 degrees. Now the reason I know that this blue shape takes place is because all you have to do is open up this and then lay it down on the floor or table or whatever, and there's the plane that this thing, whenever it opens up, it opens into a plane. So I have a question for you. If I open this up some more, do you think it's going to get bigger or smaller? You're right, it gets bigger. And what this is this is an octahedron with a tetrahedron on top. A whole another new form. As soon as you open up a tetrahedron, it turns into 7 immediately. This is 7 right there. This is still 7. Now they're 2 equilateral triangles. Root 3 from here to here. So let's see if I have that here. You can see. If you can't see in the back, yeah, there they are. And there it is in the cube. And then, of course, I come to my heart research that I'm going to talk about now. The heart research. So how could this possibly be the human heart? I mean, the heart doesn't look like this. So what I have discovered was that to make something organic, you think, the sculptors are going to think, this is too geometric, too rigid, too, not free enough, and, But to make this thing free, lawfully, okay, you put it into minimum surfaces. So here's the heart, okay, in the body. Okay, and if I take a bubble and I blow it into a cube, it looks like this. The cube now is organic. This is lawful, huh? What I do is I blow the bubble, I take a picture, and then I measure all the arcs. If I take the tetrahedron and I put it into minimum surfaces, it looks like this. This is left ventricle of the human heart on the outside. So the doctors say, you can't just put something on the outside just because it looks like the heart. That's not enough. I said, I know it's not enough. Wait, let me tell you some more. So I found out that what is really convincing about this, like nothing else, is this for the doctors. These are x-rays that they take of you if you have a heart problem. You guys know what orthographic projection is. This is the orthographic projection of the human heart in x-rays. So what it does is it shows the front, the top, and the side. The front, the top, and the side. This is plain orthographic projection. And all the doctors, I'm not kidding you, in all the books I've read, and the research papers I've done a lot. About 5 years of studying. I studied 2 years in the library at University of California, San Francisco Medical Section. And that library, or that school was about second or third rated in the nation. It's the finest school. So I went into I got a book, a book card, and went in and I checked out probably 30 books to study this. And they say that the heart sits in the human body at 45 degrees. All of them. And they're right. And then on the side over here, it sits at 45 degrees. And then at the top, take the X-ray from the top, it's also 45 degrees. And sure enough, they're right. Look, Those are all 45 degrees. But people who study sculpture, they know that this is just two-dimensional studies. This isn't a third-dimensional presentation here. This just represents the front view, top view, and side view. But if you put the human heart at 45 degrees, I think I've got a sticker to work good. There's 45 degrees in the cube. Side view isn't even there. It's on the edge. I found out that the human heart sits in our body at root 3, right there. Now, it's exactly 45 degrees from the front, 45 degrees from the side, and 45 degrees from the top. It's not 45 degrees. It's 36. And what's so nice about this is that this sits at root 3 throughout its presentation. This is it right there. There's the red straw and it goes between my fingers. The seven-sided form fits in a cube at root 3. So, what did I do? I put this up here like this. I show the lines. And I made a cube inside the skeleton, and it shows here that the heart sits on this side of the body. They don't know why it sits on this side of the body. Now you do. Because in the cube, okay, root 3 goes to this side over here. That's why it's on the side of the body. So geometrically, okay, design-wise, I'm talking about design this ever since I started. This is all about design. There is a design behind the human heart. And in the first place I started was inside, okay, looking at the x-rays. Okay. So before, I just show you what minimum surfaces is, how I did it. That's the bubble I showed you. And then, of course, this is the bubble inside the tetrahedron, and here it is all made up, which I've already shown you. But if you take these two and put them together, this is how organically that the heart sits in the human body. Like this. At 45 degrees from the front to the top and the side, but it's really root 3. So my next thing on here is to show you is to compare. You see this shape compared to the ones that are on the internet. There it is over here. That's the right ventricle. Here's the left. I've also found where the left comes from. It comes from my vortex generator. What happens if I take the shape and I bend it at 36 degrees? Now remember, it doesn't happen at any other time. If I bend it down in a vortex generator, the vortex is distorted and moved off to the side and hugs this first one. It hugs this and makes the right ventricle. And that's what's in this picture here, is that vortex generator going around the form, and there is the right ventricle. It's a cavity. Okay? So the left and the right ventricle are both vortexes, and they're both the same size. Okay. Now, what I did is I have to study the angles of this form. It's very important to understand what's going on inside. So what I found out was that this form will fit, okay, into a cone. And that cone is 22.5 degrees of arc. So, if I take this form and I put it into the top like this, and I've colored that red, and I put it all the way down, and I've cut the tetrahedron at the tip to show you that the red goes all the way to the tip. This is called the apex in the human heart. Now if I cut it off right here at the top, yeah, I'll get this piece. Okay, that's this one. What I found out is that this will go around it. And now, find out that the Chesterheated sides on the outside are the same as the inside. That means that the edges are parallel. And this circle, is the same size as this circle. Exactly the same. So these are really interesting facts that I found. And why is that? Because this is the thickness of the muscles from here to here. All right, that's really important. And also the tip of the form is also has a different angle, and that angle is 45 degrees. Let's imagine that this 45 and 22, they're exactly opposite. So this one right here is 45 degrees, and these two, which are from the same cone, are 22 and a half. Okay, these are really important facts that I have to say that the doctors don't know. They don't know why that the heart has this, it doesn't come down to a point like it's got this kind of thing that goes down like this. They don't understand why the apex has that shape, or the side's going like this and all of a sudden like that. That's because that's what this form does. All right. Why is that important? Okay, this is why it's important. These are the muscle layers of the human heart. There are 8 of them. There are 8 muscle layers in the human heart. Now, what happens is that the layers, start at the top of the heart. This is a dissection by a doctor. And what happens is they dissect the right ventricle. They cut the right ventricle off, and it falls on the floor like a napkin because it's not very thick. But they like the big muscle one. So I studied the big muscle one, of course. And what I found out is it starts out with a degree like that on the outside, and as you peel the layers off, there's the second layer, third layer, fourth layer, and the fifth layer are horizontal. And then what happens? It reverses. Wow, that's what's going on inside us. We have reversals. So how can I possibly show this? The doctors, and not the doctors are bad or anything, but the researchers, the cardiologists that work in research, they don't know this, that where it comes from. This is a phenomena. They know the phenomena, but they don't know what's behind the phenomena. And that's what we have to do. Artists today have to find what's behind a phenomena. Okay? Not just do the outside of things. We have to find out why the outside is like that. Okay, so I worked on this, I tell you, for a couple of years. I had this thing on my wall, and every day I walked by it, once in a while I look at it, once in a while I wouldn't. And one day it came, I think I know how this works. So if I could prove this is really going to help this. Because now we're working on inner layers. All right, so what I did is I took a cone. Now, this isn't any of the textbooks. I found this just out because I wanted to find this. So what I did was I wanted to make a cone, right? In projective geometry, we always put a plane, we always put lines on it. 2 lines parallel to they meet, all that kind of stuff. So I took a circle, like one of those, and I put lines on it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to make this into a cone. So I put a red line here and here, so I knew when I had one turn of a cone. So if I brought these all around here, all the straight lines became curves. I didn't know that. But the problem is that's not going to fit in there. That doesn't fit. Okay, so I said, okay, obviously I'm going to make 2 turns. So, you have to wonder where these forms come from. Where do these planes come from? Yes, I can draw them on the board like that, but where do they come from? Where are they in the world? How do they come here? Okay, so I turned this again to 2, and they turned all into triangles. And what's behind this? Where does this come from? Who's doing this? It's not me. I'm just discovering something. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't go in there either. So I need to do it again. So I turn it again. And when I turn them again, I turn all the squares. Wow, that's really something. And this guy went in. He went in. So I knew that I had 4 layers, but there are 8. So what I did is I just went back to my original research with the simple geometry in the world possible. This one. This is just 2 circles. So if I had 4 here and 4 here, I'll get my 8. So what I did is I put 2 circles together. 2 of these guys. Just like I originally showed you, I put these 2 together. But I didn't do the vesica. I put them together like this. And then I drew those lines up there because I knew this was going to be a cone. I knew because of these lines. These lines right here, you know, they're tucking under, they're tucking under, tucking under, tucking under. So I knew it was going around like that. So here's my original papers. I took 2 circles and I taped them together. So these lines are coming. This is a design, okay? It's not mountain. I didn't figure this out. But I put this in here like this. And I think I'll get that paper clip a little better now. Let's see. This is my original one. That's why it's all beat up. But it's okay. Now what I did is I rolled this around like this. And I rolled it around. Now this is the right size cone. 22.5 degrees. And I rolled it around until I got to the where I taped them together. Look, they're taped. That's the other half, yeah, see? Okay, so let me put a clip on this. And then I take this one here, do the same thing. I'm just going to take this around, put a paper clip on this one. And I'm going to get my 8 layers maybe, huh? So, check the cone size. And wrap this one. I'm coming up to the middle, yeah? Oh man, that's not working. Half my work's failures. I don't care, I don't give up because it's so great when you get something. If it comes too easy, it's no good. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like it's time to leave or something. So I thought, well, how am I going to do this? You know, and okay, I cut this in half and put it inside. But then it just came right out, and the heart doesn't have muscles that just come right out. So I studied shells, and I watched the way the vortex is, because shells are vortexes that come to rest. So what I found out, what I decided to do was to take this one. If I'm doing that right. Take this one, and all I did was just let it roll around that one. What the heck? So I just let it roll around. The first one I had. The reason this isn't rolling good is because it's too sharp. So the thicker you roll things around, this wants to start to go up. I don't know if you've had that experience, but if you do run a cone and you go with many layers, this point gets into trouble. It's in the way. And so when I got to here, okay, I still had this other cone. What am I do with that? There, I have it like that. I have 2 cones. Look. I had 1 layer here and 7 here. Okay, so what I realized was that all I had to do was keep rolling this, and this flattens out, and that's the right ventricle. That's why it's thin. That's why it's that shape. That's why the vortex goes around it like it does. Now I have the right and left ventricle. They're both same size vortexes. So let's see if I did this right. Oh, wrong way. All right, so I started out here. You can see that the lines are going down here, like this one. And then I take one layer off. They're still kind of going down. And then I take another layer off. Still kind of going down a little bit. And now they're completely flat or horizontal. I take another layer off. They're starting to go up. Flat, now it's starting to go up. Another layer, it goes up. And the last layer is exactly like this. I have now even better proof that this chestahedron, okay, is in the chest. That's why I named it, not because of my last name, but because I know it looks like that. Kind of is a little bit, no. So what I found out was that, let's see, I think I have a picture. Yeah, I have a picture of this one. I'm really glad I have it. This just shows you those layers. There they are. And here is this cone that I just made. And here's the other one on the outside. Okay, so inside the human heart there's a loop. And I have it right here. Here's the outside shape of the human heart, and here's the cavity that the red blood goes to. And on the outside of the heart, there is a muscle layer that goes down like this, around here, and then back up to the inside. So we have a loop that goes from the outside to the inside. I figured, listen, if I have this right, I should be able to figure this out. How that works. This is magnetic images. Magnetic images is what the doctors use to study the phenomena, but they don't understand it. It's not enough. Okay, so I took the cone and I wrapped it up and I put the loop. I found the loop. There it is. And, whoops, this part right here is this part. Of course, then it goes back, just like this. And there's the loop. I found the loop. And they see it in there? It's kind of hard to see maybe, but believe me, when you're done, if you're really interested, you can come up here and look at these things. But there's the loop. And this is a new discovery I found. This isn't very old at all. So I'm still working. Now, what is about that loop? Look at this loop. It only comes when 8 layers. Now this is really neat. Watch this. Well, that's beautiful. That's gorgeous. I mean, this is sculpture. So if I flatten this out, I don't know if I can do it here, but I'm going to try to here. I'm going to try to flatten this out because I want to know where it is in this thing, if it is. And so this is what I found.
It's Route 3. It's kind of thin plastic. I had to use it to try to get it to curve, but believe me, when you come up here, if you don't look at it, it is perfect. Route 3. And this circle, yeah, and this circle are the same. They're the same size circles. Simple geometry. So when you say something simple, it's really profound, something about it, really profound.
I found it where it goes in the earth. the Aurora Borealis, what I found, goes to the center of the Earth and hits the base, which is the North Pole. The Aurora Borealis can never get into this cone because this is where the vortex, this is where the Aurora Borealis is coming in. So it can never get into this cone. It can only go in the cone that surrounds it, this one. But at the bottom it can. On the bottom it can go right straight across and fill this space up. But it can't get out here. And that's exactly what the Aurora Borealis does. So what's happening is the energy, okay, is not, as far as the blood is concerned, is not a torus. It doesn't go like this, which you're seeing all the time. A torus is very popular now. It's an inversion. The heart doesn't invert. The heart reverses. So what happens is the blood goes to the apex of the heart and comes back out here. And this is the aorta. The aorta valve is right here, and this is the mitral valve. In the same way in the Earth, the vortex comes in here as a Aurora Borealis. It goes across and exits here. So the Aurora Borealis that you see at night is also there during the day, all day. You just can't see it. And that Aurora Borealis that you see is not coming into the Earth, it's coming out. This is my findings. I'm not saying it's not proven, but this is better than any explanation you find on anything written on the Aurora Borealis. Nobody can explain why these two phenomena happen. This is a torus, but this is a geometric torus, yeah? And this is why they like it, huh? Why they like it is because it is moving forward towards you, and at the same time it's moving towards me. This is three-dimensional karma. You want to watch out what you do to your friend because it's going to come back, yeah? All right, there is a shape in here. I think the sculptors would like this because I do. There's a shape in here. There's an actual shape in there, and if you study it, this is what it looks like. It's called an oloid. It was discovered by a mathematician in Switzerland in 1950. And it's beautiful. That is gorgeous. And this is a lawful geometric form, organic. And it has curves and straight lines. And they meet at another curve and then become straight lines. So what I did was I wanted to invert. This is a cube. So this is a symmetrical inversion. What would an asymmetrical inversion look like? So nobody's ever done an asymmetrical inversion. They've done a regular one. So here's what I found happens when I do an asymmetrical form into an inversion. This is what I did. That rocks. That is one gorgeous sculpture, and this is lawful. This is not coming off me. This is coming off where I follow the form in a lawful way to find out where it goes and what it does. It has retrogrades. And this curve and this curve are the golden mean. And there's not a straight line on it. This is where we have to go now. We've got to leave the symmetrical, all the polygons the same size, all the polygons equal, all the polygons the same shape, okay, all the same distance from the center, okay? That is how we learn for 3,500 years now. Now we have to start new. And this is the first indication, and it's just a minor one. Imagine what's going on here. The other forms inside, the other forms, and doing all these kind of things with them. I don't have time to do. I've found 5 other forms never seen before. I don't have time for them. I still have to work on these. So that's why I got some of these young gentlemen that will be out on the front there, took a workshop with me and started to work on this, okay, and they came up with some really amazing results. Okay, but it wasn't based on the 7, it was based on other things. Okay, so this is an asymmetrical inversion of this. Imagine that. This is this. This is this in motion through turning this point inside out and this point outside in. So what I really want you to know, is that we have a process of working with earth, water, air, and fire. Fire is everything that transforms. Water is everything that changes. Air is everything that reverses. And earth is everything that's different. The earth is the lungs. The octahedron is the kidneys. The tetrahedron is the heart. And the icosahedron is the liver. So what I want to warn you about these things, that you need to study this. You need to know about the organs, because the organs may be directing your life. And we're not our organs. We're an individual human being. Okay, we're not based on the kidney. So what's a kidney person like? So I've done this every time, and everybody goes, "Oh no, maybe I'm kidney." I don't want to let my neighbor know I'm kidney, because it will indicate, they will know what organ I have a problem with is because of the way I'm behaving. So that should be one clue that you should try to change your behavior to become balanced. Because the heart is all about balancing, and it balances those other organs. So let's see, I don't know if I should tell you what, but I'll just tell you, one of them reverses. Okay, one of the organs reverse. So a person who is reversing all the time is a person that changes their mind all the time, can't make up their mind, and next day they've got another idea, and then the next day they reverse it, and so forth and so on. This indicates that they have a particular problem that will show up in their art. So it's a good example of a kidney person. When I said kidney person, is what's the French artist that does the surrealist? His name is Magritte. Yeah, Magritte had a real problem with one of his organs. So what happens is that if you have organ art, then that organ art is the one that gets into galleries. And the gallery owner is an organ problem. He has an organ problem, or she has an organ problem. That's why she likes your art, because you have that same problem. And then what happens is that whoever does the jury, who's ever on the jury for your show, okay, could also choose your work because he's got a kidney problem. And then what happens is that when you go over to your neighbor's house, they got kidney art up. Oh man, you love this neighbor. Okay, the idea is that we must transform the way we do art so that we're not coming off our subjectiveness anymore. We have to be more objective and find out what only the artist can find out, because you see, science needs something to measure. So they're depending on the artist to give them something to measure. Believe me, it's really true. But we need a scientist, okay? And you saw how I needed it here. I really need science. But I also, if I get stuck, I need art. If I get stuck in art, I need science. So the whole thing about this whole process about the heart is that we need to balance our life. Okay? And art can change that. Art is really good at changing ourselves. And we have to change ourselves so we don't become polarized. And that's the whole problem we have today, is that we're polarized, and especially in our political. I mean, that is the worst thing in the world, is to have these political opinions on the heart. It leads to congestive heart failure. And congestive heart failure is a lawful transformation of a tetrahedron. They call it a basketball. They don't know what else to call it. And then they call the regular heart a football. And then if it's really constricted, which is this one, when it's really constricted, they call that a giraffe heart. The reason they call it a giraffe heart is because the giraffe has that configuration because the blood has to be pumped or moved all the way up to the head, up that long neck. So congestive heart failure is going from the tetrahedron to the tetrahedron. And why is that? Because this can't move like this one. And that's the problem. So if I leave anything with you, is that to try to work on yourself so that these things like the Federal Reserve and Wall Street, and people going and getting killed because they develop a machine and the oil company wants all the profits, and all the things that go on today, okay, is based on you. It's not based on it. Because all of this is centered around the human condition. And the human condition is that any one of us that maybe have gotten the power that the Rockefellers have, we might act the same way. Because we're all alike. We all have that condition. So the idea is to transform ourselves. And one of the best ways to transform ourselves is to look at the heart. The heart is not going like this, okay? It's going back and forth and reversing, back and forth and reversing. And the other side of the heart is streaming and then going back up. And streaming and going back up. It doesn't reverse. It reverses its direction, but it doesn't stop. The left ventricle stops and then it goes back. So in your life, don't get stuck with just going in. Okay, so I don't know which political side that would be. Or don't get stuck with just going out. Because one will constrict the heart and one will bow it out. It'll blow out the bottom of the apex. So this is why it's important for artists today, okay, and the future of art is to help science. And the science help art. Because the days of painting apples, I really think is over. I really do. I think we need to move into a new direction, a new art. So that's what I bring you today. So I want to thank my cameraman here, Jim, and the two fellows here in the front, three fellows out here in the front, or one fellow somewhere else, I don't know. They're helping me in the front, and I want to thank the department for inviting me, and the faculty, and Tom. Thank you. So I don't know if you got any questions, but if you do, maybe Tom can help me if I need it here. Any questions? Yeah, oh, I have one back here, yes. Now, Tom's going to help me because it helps me here understand, and also maybe someone up there can understand, or maybe it's the wrong interpretation.
On your set-aside form, so the edges are two different sizes.
Yes.
Have you derived the ratio of those sizes?
Okay, what I will tell you about ratio and proportion is that the triangles are all the same length, the edges. And 4 of the lengths of the quadrilateral, which is the pentagram, is filled with golden relations and golden proportions, golden sections, just filled. So yes, it does have the golden proportions.
You mentioned that the faces were parallel. She doesn't quite understand.
That these are parallel? Which one? These or?
Whichever ones are parallel.
Which ones are parallel?
None of them.
Oh.
None of them are parallel. But they're equal in surface area.
Yeah.
They're not on a 90 degree.
Yeah. 94. So they're not parallel, they're like that. And the other ones are like this.
Yeah,
That's
I'm just
okay.
curious what inspired you to...
What inspired me?
Yeah, to start this project.
You mean to start this? Mm-hmm. Well, I saw a building in Switzerland that had 7 all over it. 7 columns, 7 capitals, 7 seals, 777 everywhere, but no sculpture. And so I really liked 7, and so what inspired me was the iconic forms that I saw here and how the 7 could fit. And that was what I was really inspired to do. And also I was at a point in my life where all of this came really to a head because, and this doesn't have to happen to anybody but me, but I lost my house, I lost my job, I lost my car, I lost my girlfriend, and I lost my mother within 3 months. So at that point I decided that I'm going to go back to school. And that's where I learned these. And then I took off. Once I saw these, I still haven't stopped to this day. And I brought new things I found just a day ago. See, this is the balance in life that we are used to. You know, that's a scale, right? That's a balance. But in our world, it's not. This is a two-dimensional balance. This is the balance that you have to deal with. Root 3. Because root 3 is the balance between forward and backwards, right and left, and top and bottom. The three-dimensional world now. This is the balance. And then we have to keep that balance in the heart. And don't let it get like this or like this. And it can't. This is congestive heart failure. And this is restrictive heart failure. Both are heart failures that are based on a lawfulness. So keep balanced. Like that. That's weird, isn't it? Huh? We had a balance like that? Well, we're three-dimensional balance. Not two.
And have you ever done any other science-related project before?
Done it.
Did you do any other related projects like this before?
Science-related.
Science-related?
Well, I'll tell you what I did do. I didn't start this until I was 60. So a lot of you got a good chance, you know. Okay.
But not with science?
Yeah, no. So what happened was this, is that all the things I had to learn in school and out of school, by society or by my jobs I had or where I moved, my relationships, whatever, every one of those experiences I needed. And you need them. Because what you're going to do, you need all the experiences you're going through, and you don't like some of the stuff you're going through, tough. You need it. You have a relationship with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you need that conflict because it's teaching you something you need later. And that's what I found. So I was good in science, and when I was in high school, I was good in science. The only course I ever failed was geometry. No, I didn't. I failed it. So you never know, huh? See, because I realized why now I failed geometry is because I didn't let this guy ruin geometry for me. So when I came to geometry, I was excited. I wasn't put down by this guy. So I knew how to protect myself, kind of. Yeah, I didn't do it. I drew cartoons during his class. But I'm not recommending you guys to do that. That's just my thing I had to do, okay? Don't do it, huh? Don't draw cartoons in geometry.
You've talked about the two different types of flow, the in and out, and then the other flow coming in. Is there some implication there for the function of the heart and kind of perpetual motion, or this ability of the heart not to pump, but, well, I don't know what to say.
How about a rhythm?
Yeah.
A rhythm.
But something that sustains itself.
Yes. And by research, the heart is a brake. It has nothing to do with pumping. The blood pumps the heart. The heart doesn't pump the blood. The reason I say that is a number of reasons. First, the right ventricle, okay, if you have a problem with the right ventricle valves, both of those valves can be taken out through surgery and not replaced. And the blood will go right to the lungs, just like before. But not as fast. You can't do as much exercise. You can't run a mile. But you still can live a normal life without valves. You can't have a pump without valves. It's impossible. Also, the blood is running in the embryo, which is the embryo's blood, not the mother's blood. And it's running big time. Red and blue, big time in the embryo. There's not a heart yet. It's not even there yet. And of course, what I'm saying here is that the blood vortex comes down to a point and it stops 1/7 of a second and then reverses. Okay? The amount of blood that moves through the heart in less than 1 second, okay, is tremendous. And there's no pump in the world like it. So it's not a pump. It stops the vortex of the blood, which is already moving before it's even incarnated into the human being, the heart. So it's slowing down the blood because the blood can get faster and faster, and if you didn't have a heart, it would just burst out somewhere. It would break loose and just go into a mist. That's how powerful the blood is moving. And we need a break. That's what I found. Not a pump. Imagine I started this with sticks and mud. That's how I started. With a stupid seed, some sticks in there, and I put mud around the hole and they wouldn't fall out. Okay? Now look at what you guys can do. Us is what we have to do in this life, huh? We can't get all depressed by all these things that are going on around us with the government and all that kind of stuff. The only way we're going to change the government is to change us. So we won't allow that to happen. We have to develop machines, okay, that run off us, not the machines that run us. So if we want to change the world from all the stuff going on with the Rockefellers and all this kind of stuff, then work on yourself. Look inside and see what's human about you and what's not human about you that these people are doing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you suspect there's other forms to be discovered?
Yeah.
Like 11-sided forms or 13-sided forms?
Yeah. Yeah, I found a dual of this is a 13-sided form. Absolutely beautiful. It reminds me of the shape of an artichoke. That's that shape, you know? And the heart form fits in it. So I always tell everybody, well, you know, even artichokes have hearts. It is, yeah, from the Emily movie or whatever it was. And this form is 13 sides, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And all the polygons aren't anything like you would ever imagine. So I found the 7, I found a new 10, a new 9, a new 13, a new 19, new 12.
I was also wondering if your area calculations were available for...
Well, I'm going to need help, Tom, here with this.
With this?
That just doesn't work good in my ears.
Are your area calculations available for review?
Any calculations
The area calculations.
of the other forms?
No, the area calculations for the 7-sided form?
Oh, for this one. If you go on frankchester.com, okay, and you'll see how to construct the chestahedron. Click on that, and up comes the net, which is, you know, that's the shape of a pattern, okay, for a polyhedron. Put the print button, out it comes, cut it out, put it together.
So you're showing before some math calculations that...
Oh, the math calculations are on the internet. They're on my website. The math is on my website.
The mathematics?
Yes, all the mathematics is on my website. Check it out.
I don't need that. Frank, I've been listening to you lecture for a few years, and each time you pull out the asymmetrical inversion of the 7-sided,
Yeah,
it's a heart, right?
I know it is. I know it. I've been warned by the doctors, don't tell them it's the heart because they'll think heart is a Valentine, you know.
Right.
I go, duh, you know.
So when you discovered this inversion,
Yeah.
why is it that every time you see a symbol of the heart, it looks like that? Because if you're the first person that's managed to create something that's an inversion of this form, which you've also discovered, have you looked at the relationship between why is it that humanity has created this shape as a representation of the heart?
Yeah, what an interesting
And you
question.
must have been pretty impressed when you pulled this thing out of the inside of the form, and hey presto, guess what? It's the same thing.
I have a related question. It's a cardioid. It's a shape which is derived from a circle and arcs. Can you hear me?
No, Tom will tell me what you say.
When I saw the inversion, I saw a 3-dimensional cardioid or something of the form, or something of that sort. And I was wondering if you ever investigated the cardioid shape, which is a heart shape.
Did you ever investigate the
Cardioid.
cardioic shape? I don't know what it is.
Well, the cardiologists, they study the heart. Okay, so they look at the outside of it, okay, and a geometrist looks at path curves. And path curves are a way of finding out if it relates to any rosebud. I thought it was a rosebud at first, so I path curved rosebuds. And if you look under projective geometry, you'll find how to do path curves. And I did the path curve study, and it wasn't. But when I did it to the heart, okay, that I found on the internet, boy, that was really good. So back to Locke's question is, why is that, right? Why does this shape that came out of an inversion of this form, which I'm saying is the left ventricle, why does it come out to be the shape of the heart? The only thing I can tell you, Locke, about this is I don't know. But I do know one thing. I knew a guy who took a bee, okay, it was a dead bee, and he put it into a liquid until it dissolved. And he took this liquid, okay, and he studied it with light, okay, and took photographs of it. And I saw it. And when the lines went out at the very edge, the very perimeter of this bee water soluted fluid, there were hexagrams. That's a beehive, hexagrams, all the way around the edge. So I think the only thing I can tell you is that it's kind of in it, but who knows how or why. Why is it in that inversion? Why does that happen? And the thing is that it has retrogrades, and they're two different sizes, right? And they're twisted. That's another indication that we have a vortex. This inversion, this doesn't twist. This is just right angles. Right angles, right angles. 90 degrees. This isn't, look at this. This thing twists. It's twisting like this. Look at that beautiful line like that. One of the hardest things to do in sculpture is to take a line like this and to flatten it out and reverse it out like this on the outside like that. And the transition between this and this is very difficult. And that's what we find in the human body is that this edge is flattened out until it becomes external and internal. That's very difficult. Naturally, I didn't do anything. I didn't do that. I mean, I'd like to say I did. I'm a pretty good sculptor. I could do it if I had to, but it wasn't my intention. Same on this side. Imagine that's a golden proportion. The whole thing, the whole tetrahedron net can be made with pentagrams, 3 pentagrams, and they're made with 2 circles. I can make the whole net of the tetrahedron with 2 circles, and they're golden ratio. I don't need anything. I just need to have the golden ratio, draw these 2 circles. I know what to do next, and so forth, and this beautiful 3 stars come together. It's on my website.
Rudolf Steiner, because she sees a lot of parallels.
That's where I saw the 7. I saw the 7 building he designed.
Of your town?
Yes. That's where I got inspired. And the reason is because I met this woman in Paris that was from Dornach, and she said, and I liked her, you know. So she said, hey, you want to see a really cool building? I said, no, not really. I've seen enough here. And she says, well, I think you'd really like it. And I said, okay. I said, I was in trouble because how was I going to continue seeing this woman unless I went to see the building? So anyway, I went to the building and I saw all this stuff going on. Yeah, I saw all these capitals and everything. I liked it. I really liked it. So what happened is I started to study the building, which led me into the philosophy. Yeah? And what happened is I started to like that better than I did the woman. So that was that. So yes, a lot of this has to do with that. But yeah, I can talk about those things. But basically, this isn't. He didn't do this.
Did you find more about that on this website?
When you first discovered this, when you first discovered this, how long did it take you to convince people it was real?
Convince people that it was
Real.
real. Real. You mean really the heart, or?
No, just the 7-sided form.
No. I know you don't mean this way because they can count their 7 sides, and I know that's not what you mean. But well, I was too excited to even think about that. I got this thing, and I just could not believe this thing and how simple it became. And it got simpler and simpler. And I know, why has this never been discovered before? That's why I couldn't believe 3,500 years of actual objects that we have that we can measure. Why wasn't the 7 ever discovered? Now, I have to ask that question. And the reason it was never discovered is because Platonic forms have all been about contraction. The 7-sided form is all about expansion. It's expanding. Not contracting, getting smaller and smaller and smaller, smaller. It's expanding. The tonic forms have never been expanded, okay, from a point, from a vertice, and it opened up like a flower. That's why. That's why it's not been here before. No one ever approached it this way. And I also think that in the past, you know, all the years they studied, I don't think they had Q-tips. That's joking around. I don't know. But I think it's because of expansion. Nobody opened it up. Nobody thought of opening it up. But we do, huh? We have to open heart now. We have to open our hearts.
There are many organs that we have. And have you considered, and they also they operate in contraction and expansion. Have you considered this kind of thing transformed to the other organs?
In other words, have I considered having a geometry based on another organ?
Yeah.
No. The reason is this, I'm so consumed with this that I don't have time. But this is what's really neat, is I'm bringing you an idea that there is a geometry behind the stomach. It's there, I know it. I know there is in the kidney too. And these are very asymmetrical forms. Yeah, but there's a geometry behind it, I know. I mean, look at the heart. You would think there would be a geometry behind that heart. You've seen them on the internet and through operations or just animations or some kind of image of a heart. And that heart beating like this, okay, it's unbelievable. See, the chestahedron moves like this, but the inside moves like that at the same time. I have a model that shows that. I can't bring everything. And it moves like this on the outside, and the inside is going like this. It's amazing. The design behind the human heart is amazing. So there is in these other things too. There has to be.
Well, then, have you thought about the location of the heart in your body? Like, why it's not in the center? Why it's sided? That is related to the
golden section.
That's right.
It's the root 3. It's at angle.
The doctors say that it's on this side of the heart is on this side of the body because this part of the body is more cold. Duh, come on. It's got to be a better reason than that. And there is. It's root 3. You know? It sits in the body in root 3 in a cube. Of course, the cube is gone. Okay? And the seven-sided form is gone. We now have the organic heart beating. Okay? But the idea is that there is a design behind it before it became manifest and worked in our human body. There's a design behind it. Right? Just like there's a design behind this building. You don't see it, but it's there. I mean, the building is there. But there had to be some kind of design. Okay? And the drawings and all the ideas and everything are gone. Now you got the building. That's the same thing with the heart. The heart has a geometric, lawful design behind it to do what it does. It couldn't be random. It can't be just some stuff that went together. It had to be designed. And that's what we're here in the school all about, is to work on design. Because design is what's behind everything. Okay? That's not phenomena. That's what's behind the phenomena. Design. Very important.
What does keeping your life in balance really mean to a RISD student?
Don't get stuck. Don't get thinking you have the answer, like me. You know, no. Don't get stuck with one philosophy. Look at the other side. Do a reversal. Okay? Take what you think is right and go onto this side over here and try to prove it's wrong to yourself. That is one way to really balance yourself and your ideas. Take what design you have turned in. You're gonna get Tom a design, okay? And you think it's really cool, but he won't like it. Okay, let's say he doesn't. So before you do that, take your design and reverse it. Or make it different. That's Earth. Reversing is the kidney, okay? There's something wrong. You know, I want to give you the impression that there's something wrong with you guys and you have something wrong with your organ. Everyone sitting in this has an organ problem. Everybody here. But the organ problem that you had is your gift. That's the gift that you've been given, that problem, to work out. Because if you didn't have that problem to work out, you wouldn't know what to do. So what you have to do is recognize that problem and work it out. Because that's why we're here. If we were perfect, we wouldn't be here. We only can come here on Earth to see if what we can do about our particular situation and this body. Okay, and it's composed of organs. So, if you look at this, this is what's different, this is what changes, this is what reverses, and this is what transforms. So find out how to change design before you take it into time. Change it. Then you say, gosh, that really looks good. How can I change it? You know, this one here, you know, when I got this one, I thought, well, how am I going to change this? This thing is tough. This is really a strong form. And the only way I could change is, and of course, remember, change is water. And what does water do? It takes any form that it has. So it changes itself constantly into whatever vessel it goes through or into. So it's flowing, river's flowing. So that's what I did. Okay, how to make this flow? I did it here, and there's a bell. I never intended to make a bell. And I took this to a Russian bell expert. I showed it to him, and he about fell off his chair. And I said, what's wrong? And he says,
making bells for 3,000 or 4,000 years, and we've never known the geometry behind the bell until now. I didn't start out with bells. I had no intention at all. Here it is. See all those black lines? Can you see them? Those are forms. Those black lines, I study every one of them. I know what that is, and part of it is the inside of the heart.
But those are really, really fun to study. This is only one thing, you guys. Get busy. There's lots of stuff out there if you like this. This is known as water. Change. So if I ever just went like this, I said, well, I don't know anything about these guys, and I don't know what change is, I don't know what water is, I would have never spun this thing. This is a new tool that you can use in anything, filmmaking, writing a book. I'll ask you, kind of a weird movie, but you know, Kill Bill, huh? That guy reverses all the time, you notice that? Starts with chapter 3 and then goes to chapter 1 and then goes to 2. Those are reversals. That's what he's using. He doesn't realize it, that it's water, but that's what it is. But you do. You become conscious. Okay? This is the consciousness. The compass is a form of consciousness. It brings in a new view. And that's what you just got here tonight, is a new view. Now you need to use it, if you want. Or you can say, heck with that, I don't like it.
1:20 tomorrow. He's going to talk some more to the class, and you're welcome to come because there's a lot of space. Any of you. Okay? Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, people. Thank you very much. Thanks, Tom.
You can probably see the forms up here if you want.
Hey, Frank. Great talk. I really enjoy your stuff.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your